All right, bows and bow ties. Good morning. It's 4:33 this morning. I have an early start because I need to leave early today. My children, three of my four, have dental appointments, so I need to take care of some things early. Got some presentation slides I need to tidy up, and then I need to roll up out of there. So look, I think you may have heard this conversation when I first started doing YouTube. Maybe so. I've been doing this for a couple of years now. No, I'm not that good at YouTube, but I was really bad at YouTube then. And I remember one of my conversations. I don't know what video it was. I talked about how I got into a discussion one time about if $50 is a lot of money. So just to set the scenario, I was working on a project where I was doing system architecture. And the individuals I was working with, they were changing. Our office space was going to be changed, but they had us temporarily sitting with a group of individuals it was like a huge call center. And so they were responsible for making sure that systems and everything else were, working well. If not, then they had to, contact individuals. For, there was also an area where it was more like a help desk. It was like this huge area. So I was sitting in this area with people who we were doing architecture. However, that day, I know the guy that I worked with, my lead actually at the time, I think he had to leave early. It was just me left. And I was sitting with a bunch of men. So when I was sitting there, okay, some of these individuals, I'm telling you this for a reason. This is important to the story. Some of them work really two jobs, so they can bring in a lot of income. It's like an easy bag for them to make. They got paid decent for this job, but they also had another job, or maybe they were like another shift or something. I don't know. So it was kind of like not a busy time. There weren't many issues or anything going on with systems or people's accounts or whatever. And we got into this discussion, and somehow, and then I remember saying, because I was, I know what it was. So when they were talking, I was listening to the ding dongery. Now, this was about maybe 8 to 10 years ago. Maybe 8 years. I don't know. Maybe, maybe more. So I remember I got called a gold digger. I'm going to tell you the reason why. This is why I don't deal with dudes with no money. I asked, because based on the conversation, I said, is $50 a lot of money? That's how I started off the conversation. And they were like, well, what do you mean? I said, is $50 a lot of money? And they were like, well, let's have some context. I said, let's say it's my birthday. Let's say it's my birthday. And you know, I have been, I can't believe I used this as an example. So the example I used was, you know, we don't necessarily go out a lot. We don't, we go out, but for whatever reasons this year, there was this brand new super decoder pen, and it lit up, and I love the way it felt when I wrote, and it had the best, I don't know, neon colored ink. I said, all I know was I really wanted this pen. And I said, the cost is $49.99. And that's all I've been waiting for. I was like, that's all I want. And they were like, for a pen? I said, for a pen. That's what I want. Now, let me just say this. My love language is not that I'm opposed to gifts, but I'm more of a service person. Like, I like service, like, or maybe affection, right? I'm not a big. I like to buy my own gadgets or my own things, but I'm not big into gifts. I don't. I like service. Like, so, it's not that my husband doesn't buy gifts. Sometimes he does, but most of the time I don't get gifts for my birthday because all I really want to do is have a good meal and be left alone. Same thing for Mother's Day. Like, I'm like, please just leave me alone. So, but I will say this: if there's something that I want, this is a sidebar. If there's something that I want, which isn't often, then my husband's like, okay, she this is what she wants for her birthday. I remember one time, I forgot what it was. This is for Christmas, actually. Let me tell you, he is a mess. I remember for Christmas. Now, this is pricey. This is when people really started moving over to Macs. I said, I want a Mac. And he's like, why do you want a Mac? Because I want a Mac. And he's like, well, you already got a Mac. You got me. I'm like, I don't want that kind of Mac. And he was like, well, he got me this MacBook, right? But usually, I'm not a big gift person. Like, we buy each other gifts, but it's not a thing. Now, anyway, back to the story. So I said, look, you know, I want that super decoder, super awesome pen for $49.99. And these men were like, well, why would I buy you that? And I looked for a second. So there was this guy that I'm actually cool with to this day. He was sitting there and he looked, now he's a little older. So he stops and looks at these guys. And he's looking really puzzled. He had a really quizzical look. And I'm looking like, what is happening right now? And they were like, why would I buy you a pen for $49.99? I'm like, my answer was, because I want it. That's it. That's the reason. It's my birthday and that's what I want. They were like, that's a lot of money for a pen. I said, so you're saying $50 is a lot of money? They were like, well, it depends. I'm like, no, $50 is worth $50. Regardless of whether you spend it on a pen, a meal, a pair of socks, $50 is worth $50. So they were like, well, why can't I buy you a sundress and a meal? I said, first and foremost, you cannot buy me a sundress and a meal for $50. Let's be clear. He was like, you don't know what I can do. I'm like, I literally know that I'm probably not going to either like the meal or like the sundress. And I'm like, but what about the pen? They're like, well, what if I wanted to get you this? I said, see, already I wouldn't be dealing with you because you're getting me what you want for me versus what I want for me. It's my birthday, and all I want is this pen for $49.99. And they were like, but it's so expensive. I'm like, but is it though? You're willing to spend $50 on some dress that I wouldn't wear and some meal that I'm probably not going to want to eat if that's going to be the sum total of $50. And that's not to say that I can't eat regular meals because I do all the time. Okay? But if it's my birthday and all I want was this super decoder pen for $49.99. It's the best writing pen and it lights up and it's got sparkles and it's bedazzled. And I'm like, that's all I want. That's all I want. And so everybody started chiming in their family. I said, wait a second. You guys play computer games, right? They're like, yeah, what's that got to do with anything? I'm like, how much do these games cost? And then they got quiet. I was like, but doesn't that cost a lot of money? I mean, it's $50, maybe more. They're like, well, that's different. I'm like, how is it? Well, I play that every day. I'm like, I plan to write with this super decoder pen every single day. And even if I don't want to write with it every day, if I just want to look at it in its shiny, pretty box, that's what I want. So they go on and on and on. So they were like, well, you don't know what this man is going through. And I said, you're absolutely right. But I said, this man, if $50 is going to cause problems, and so then I got cut off. I said, wait a second. You don't get to cut me off. You don't get to cut me off. So they were looking at me like the audacity. And I said, stop it. I said, look, if this guy's got troubles, they're like, well, he could be going through a hardship. I said, well, let me make this clear to you. If $50 is putting you in a hardship, you don't need to be dating. They got upset. I said, you don't need to be dating. You need to be focused on getting yourself together. Especially if at the time I think I was in my 30s. So this is definitely, yeah, probably closer to 10 years ago. I was like, especially if somebody's older, but definitely by the time you hit 30, $50 should not put you in the poorhouse. but you don't know what he's going through. I'm like, you're absolutely right. You don't need to be dating. You need to be focusing on getting your act together. Find yourself a career path or some way of bringing in income. But what's not going to happen is if for somebody's birthday, $49.99, that super decoder pen, that's all you've been looking at was this pen. Okay? I'm not talking about if you were together or you're married or something, and then like all the businesses in the entire free world just spontaneously went belly up, right? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about a scenario like what happened in Maui, where there was like a serious crisis, right? Where you lose everything. We're not talking about that. But they were like, you don't know what he's going through. I'm like, you're right, and you don't need to be dating me. This is back when I was younger. I was married, but we were just talking about this $50 thing. And I said, if I were single, and if I were single and that was going on, and you don't need to be dating. I said, because $50 should not put you in a poorhouse. Nobody's expecting you to pay or drop $50 every single day. Well, maybe you should be, depending on your means. But the point I'm making is, this isn't like a daily request. And they were like, but you don't know. I said, you keep saying the same thing over and over. But at the end of the day, if $50 is going to cause you to get your lights cut off or you're not going to be able to eat, you shouldn't be dating anyway. And definitely not me. Because if I can afford $50 for a super decoder pen, then why would I want somebody who can't meet that standard for me? Now, this was about 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. I said, if that's the standard that I have established for myself, why would I want to be with someone who can't meet that standard? It's not like that he's buying the super decoder pen for $49.99 plus tax probably every day. But it is my birthday. You're talking about buying me a dress and a meal for $50. And I'm like, number one, what dress and meal are you getting for $50? And number two, that's not what I asked for. I asked for the super decoder pen that's bedazzled and sparkly, and it lights up, and it probably even has a little tune built into the pen, and it's the smoothest writing pen ever. And I said, look, and if you wanted to get those other things, that's fine. But all I want is the pen for $49.99. And they were like, well, that's a lot of money to spend on a pen. I said, perhaps, but that's what I want for my birthday. That's all I want. It comes once a year. And they were like, well, I can't believe you wouldn't want to deal with somebody who's having money. I'm like, oh, well, you need to believe it. You absolutely need to believe it. Because if I can take care of myself and if I can afford that, why would I want to deal with somebody who cannot match that? I absolutely don't want to deal with you. So this dude must have been in his feelings. He said, see, he said, you sound like a gold digger. I'm like, but am I? Am I really? Or am I trying to be with someone who can actually meet a certain standard for myself? Or no, what I said was, or am I trying to be, I said, or am I trying to be with somebody who can match where I currently am? And he was like, I wouldn't want to be your husband. And so I went off. I was like, let me make this clear. You could never. Okay? Because first of all, if $49.99 is going to put you in a poorhouse, you can't afford me anyway. Because I already can afford myself. And you can't even meet my standards. Now, you can call me a gold digger if you want, but you know what? I don't know what standards you have for yourself in your relationship, and you definitely wouldn't even meet mine. And secondly, I don't date poor dudes. I tried that one time, never again. The guy who was a security guard, you guys remember that from that other previous video? I was like, I will never. I would never. Oh, absolutely not. And I don't care. This now I want to bring to the current. I don't care what any of these whacked out weirdos say. Ladies, let me tell you something. If they can't meet your current standard, you don't need to deal with them. Let's start with that. Number two, fact of the matter is, a lot of these guys don't realize they're supposed to be the providers. Right now, everything is flipped. So they can't figure out if they want somebody traditional or if they want to be a feminist. They don't even know how to structure their arguments. They want somebody traditional, but all the things that they're asking for requires for them to be a feminist. They want 50-50. They want all of that. They don't understand what they're looking for. They don't understand what they're asking. So The fact of the matter is, these guys need to basically, these guys need to be able to meet your basic standard. They need to meet your standard. I'm looking because I'm trying to make sure this cop is not trying to follow me. Okay, I think he wants to pull off. Anyway, the point I'm making is you don't want to be able. Oh, he's pulling over. Okay, great, awesome. So my whole thing is, sorry, I got distracted for a second. I don't want. I mean, I'm fine. I'm doing my thing. I'm just driving like regular. I was looking at my speed. So my whole big thing is these guys out here in these streets. They don't know what they want to be. They don't know what they want to do. And I feel like this. I am very fortunate that I am not having to date in this whacked out weirdo environment. You guys don't, and I say you guys, I mean guys and gals, bows and bow ties. Y'all don't know how to talk to each other. You sit behind these computers and these phones, and you don't even know how to do the basic dating. You don't know what it's like when you go out with each other and you smell each other's cologne and perfume, and you see that when you're looking at the way they're talking, the way they look at you, the way they smile. You know how men like to drop their voice when they think they're being sexy, or if it's nighttime and they want to sound all manly, like, hey, how's it going? Whatever. You know what I mean? Women know how to be coy when necessary. I just feel like this. If someone cannot meet your basic standard, you don't need to engage. Now, I don't know what your standards are like. If your standards are $1,000,000 a day, well, then obviously you're going to have some difficulty because many black men don't meet those standards, okay? And I don't think they are going to try to meet it. I mean, I'm trying to get my boys to meet certain standards, but my husband is doing the best he can to make sure he's teaching, okay? But ultimately, when someone is coming at me, I remember they were like, "You must be a gold digger." $49.99 means I'm a gold digger. You don't meet any kind of standard that for me. $50 should not put you in a poorhouse. $50 should not get your lights cut off. $50 should not get your car repossessed. I was like, dude, you could never. And you shouldn't be dating. And you're selfish because you're thinking about what you want from me versus what I want from me on my birthday. But anyway, yeah. I just feel like I tell people all the time, and they're like, well, you didn't marry a regular guy. I'm like, no, I didn't. I said, but the standard for myself was this. I said, I wanted a professional. I'm a professional. I want a professional. That's what I want. Because if I want to do certain things, well, then he needs to be able to afford to do certain things. So it's not like, and let me tell you something, I spend my own money at the time. But if I needed something or wanted something when I was dating, so what I said. Anyway, I know for me, I had a certain way of living that I wanted for myself. And that's just where I'm at with it. So, even with all of that, I wanted to say to everybody out there, look, y'all need to get off of these podcasts, get off of these phones, and just start talking to each other without like interrogating people. You have a standard for yourself, set it. And if the person doesn't meet the standard, don't waste your energy or time because you're just going to be resentful. You're going to feel like you settled. Okay? So that's just where I'm at with it. But anyway, I just wanted to share that little story about the $50 pen that apparently got me called a gold digger over $50. I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to be that gold digger. But just understand you could never meet any standard that I have. All right. Let me know what your thoughts are on that. My people, I can't. All right. Have a good one.